breaking news. The U.S. Navy blockades Iran. Trump claims Tehran is begging for a deal, and Swalwell resigns in scandal. Greetings, humanity. Today is Tuesday, April 14th, 2026. Let's grok the news. I'm Robert Gardner, using Grok, the most truthful AI on the planet, every weekday to help me summarize the biggest headlines in the news today. You also get the benefit of my opinions. Now, let's grok the most important news in the world today, starting with our lead story, Dateline, Washington, and Tehran. The United States has imposed a naval blockade on Iranian imports and the Strait of Hormuz as diplomatic talks collapse, escalating tensions in a conflict now entering a critical phase with global economic ripples. Vice President J.D. Vance stated that Iran currently cannot access its enriched uranium because it's buried, but removing it remains a firm red line for the U.S. He added that two can play that game in response to Iranian actions in the coveted shipping lanes. President Trump has warned Iranian ships to steer clear of the blockade or face immediate elimination, while also claiming Tehran has reached out about making a deal. The blockade aims to increase economic pressure on Iran amid stalled negotiations, with some reports indicating talks could resume in Islamabad, Pakistan. Tankers have been ordered not to pay tolls to Iran for use of the strait, and questions swirl about how many ships continue crossing the vital waterway. The news has drawn mixed reactions from allies, with some NATO partners still reluctant to join the effort to secure their own fuel shipments, this observer notes. Iranian officials have slammed the blockade, of course, while the UN chief has called on all parties to respect freedom of navigation in the strait. Broader fallout includes warnings of a potential global food catastrophe if disruptions persist, along with impacts on oil prices, jet fuel costs, and even U.S. water utilities facing fluoride shortages. Some areas are ceasing fluoridation of water anyway. This observer isn't sure if that passes a risk-benefit analysis, but that's probably a story for another day. Hezbollah in Lebanon continues to resist disarmament efforts as separate peacekeeping talks involving Israeli and Lebanese ambassadors proceed in Washington. The situation remains fluid, with the U.S. maintaining it holds strong leverage through the blockade. The development marks a sharp escalation in the U.S.-Iran standoff, testing international alliances and maintaining heightened concerns over energy security and regional stability. We briefly review a roundup of the most critical reports in the world right after this. God with Us, the story of Jesus, is a full blending of all the Gospels into one continuous narrative, a story that misses nothing from the Savior's life, inspired by the majestic text of the King James Bible. God with Us is adapted to modern language, formatted for easy reading. It's a faithful paraphrase divided into brief stories fit for daily Bible studies. Find God with Us by me, Robert Gardner, at Amazon.com or wherever books are sold. Now we grok the headlines from around the world. Dateline, Budapest. Opposition leader Péter Magyar has scored a landslide election victory in Hungary, ousting longtime Prime Minister Viktor Orban after more than a decade in power. The opposition surge ends Orban's dominant rule and is expected to improve Hungary's strained ties with the European Union, while potentially shifting the country's foreign policy stance on issues like the war in Ukraine. Now, experts vary on whether this might not be a shift to the right rather than the left, but time will tell. This observer is no expert. Dateline Washington. Democratic Representative Eric Swalwell plans to resign from Congress amid a stream of sexual assault accusations from former staffers, a stunning development that has upended the Democratic Party primary for California's governor's race. Separately, Republican Representative Tony Gonzales announced that he will retire after admitting to an affair scandal, further thinning the ranks of the House amid ongoing ethics concerns. This observer would just like to see all of that hush money that Congress has paid to squash the sex scandals. Well, this observer would like to see that money made public. Who was being protected there with U.S. tax dollars? There's a lot of that sort of thing going on in Washington, you know. Dateline Washington and the Vatican. The feud, if you want to call it that, between President Trump and Pope Leo intensified after Trump posted and then quickly deleted a social media image depicting himself in a Jesus-like pose, sparking widespread backlash. Pope Leo responded by saying he has no fear of the U.S. administration and will continue to speak out on global issues. Well, this observer hopes he doesn't have any fear and will continue to speak out as he sees fit, even when this observer disagrees. The president, drawing criticism from allies, including Italy's prime minister, called Trump's remark about the Pope unacceptable. Now, this observer saw the silly tweet and also thought it was a bit too much. He's glad the president took it down. It was just silly. This observer also thinks that the Pope is proclaiming an anti-biblical position regarding the necessity of war from time to time, and of warriors, and of the very nature of God, with his own anti-war position being more postmodern leftist than Christian, at least in this observer's opinion. Dateline Beijing. The founder of the embattled property developer Evergrande, Mr. Hui Ka-yan, has pleaded guilty to fraud, bribery, and other charges in a landmark case that highlights the deep troubles in China's once booming real estate sector, a real estate sector that was propped up with socialist dollars, and the government's crackdown on corporate misconduct. Dateline Athens. A senior Greek official has credited President Trump and advisor Kimberly Guilfoyle with helping sever China's strategic port advantage at Piraeus, long described as Beijing's dragon head gateway into Europe. The development marks a significant shift in control over key Mediterranean trade infrastructure. Dateline Manila. The Philippines has accused Chinese fishermen of deliberately dumping cyanide into a disputed South China Sea atoll, an act that threatens marine life and escalates long-standing territorial tensions between Manila and Beijing in one of the world's busiest waterways. Dateline Jakarta. Indonesia and the United States have elevated their bilateral relationship to a major defense cooperation partnership. This is a move aimed at strengthening security ties in the Indo-Pacific amid growing regional, call that Chinese, challenges. Dateline the Pacific Ocean. Super Typhoon Sinlaku is on track to deliver significant impacts to U.S. islands in the Pacific, including strong winds, heavy rain, and storm surges, as authorities issue warnings and prepare response efforts. Dateline Beirut and Washington. Lebanon is pushing for peace and for progress toward disarming Hezbollah, with Israeli and Lebanese ambassadors scheduled for historic talks in Washington. However, Hezbollah's leader has urged the Lebanese government to withdraw from the discussions. Of course, this complicates efforts to stabilize the region after recent Israeli strikes, after recent Hezbollah strikes, after recent Israeli reprisals, after recent Hezbollah You see what I'm saying here. This observer is a believer in negotiating between nation-states, Lebanon and Israel, but not with negotiating with Islamic terrorists. Hezbollah, like Hamas, you can only defeat them or submit. Dateline Ottawa. Prime Minister Mark Carney has secured a Liberal majority government after strong performances in recent by-elections, consolidating power and providing stability as Canada navigates economic challenges and international trade issues created by its socialism. This observer is pretty sure that Canada is lost to the left. Will America fall for the siren call of socialism as well? Stay tuned. Dateline Cotonou, Benin. Finance Minister Wada Ghani has won Benin's presidential election in a landslide with 94% of the vote, handing a decisive victory to the government-backed candidate and ensuring policy continuity, at least, in this West African nation. Dateline Islamabad. Undercover filming has exposed hospitals in Pakistan reusing syringes, directly linking the practice to a child HIV outbreak and raising urgent concerns over medical safety standards and public health oversight in that country. Well, think of that the next time you complain about American medical waste and its costs. Not that the insurance racket doesn't need cleaning up, but this observer does prefer fresh needles. Thank you. Dateline Nevada. A magnitude 5.7 earthquake was reported in Nevada, prompting officials to assess potential damage and monitor for aftershocks in a region that is not unfamiliar with seismic activity. Stay tuned. Dateline Washington. President Trump's family business deals now are under intensified scrutiny over potential conflicts of interest, with critics warning that such arrangements could set a precedent allowing future presidents to profit personally from holding office. Looks like a lot of ifs to me right there. This observer is not surprised that these professional critics are fishing for whatever they can find on Trump, with Democrats promising to go after his family and anyone who supported Trump if they should win the congressional midterms. Dateline New York, New York. A U.S. judge has dismissed President Trump's $10 billion defamation lawsuit against the Wall Street Journal concerning its reporting on Jeffrey Epstein, dealing a legal setback to the president's effort to challenge media coverage. The president said that Trump's team did not come even close to proving that the journal published claims with malice. And that is the lawful standard. Trump says he's going to go back to court. Dateline, various global research hubs. Now, this is potentially some good news. Scientists report that a new wave of immunotherapy drug treatments is advancing rapidly and showing strong results in eliminating certain previously hard-to-treat cancers, marking a promising breakthrough in oncology that could transform patient outcomes worldwide. Well, that was good news, wasn't it? Well, we hope so. Stay tuned. I thank you for listening. Please join me tomorrow to once again grok the news. I'm Robert Gardner. Godspeed and God bless.